What information is included in the Declaration of Conformity? When and to whom do I need to submit this document? And how I can communicate these requirements across my supply chain? These are the questions that we receive more and more often at Packintelx, and they serve us as a starting point for today's webinar. Good day to everyone. My name is Rodrigo Nostroza, and I'm the International Sales and Partnership Manager at Packintelx. Welcome to you all. We are very pleased to see such a strong turnout, which reflects the high level of interest in regulatory compliance in the context of PPWR. During this webinar, we will address the key aspects of Declaration of Conformity, its role within the European framework, and how to prepare to meet these new requirements. The webinar will have a duration of 1 hour, and at the end, we will receive time for Q&A session. So please, you are welcome to submit your questions at any time during the webinar by using the question section, which is like in the right part of your screen. So, and now, and without any further preamble, it is my pleasure to introduce today's webinar titled Roadmap to PPWR Conformity. Our speaker is Siddharth Bagri, which is like the CEO and founder of Packintelx, a professional with over 10 years of experience in the recycling industry and with a deep expertise in regulatory compliance, sustainability, and circular economy. Siddharth, thank you very much for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Rodrigo, and a very good morning to all of you. We have colleagues participating from various countries in Europe, and I'm especially jealous of colleagues who are participating from Spain and Italy, still enjoying a little better weather than some of us in cold and snowy weather. Yeah. I hope you have your coffees together with you, because it's going to be um, a full focus on EU conformity declaration. The topic is intense and the time of action is limited. So I'd be glad to start presenting. Rodrigo, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Great. So a few words on Packintelx. We are in two main businesses. Our first business is operational solutions. So we are coming from the waste management and recycling world with lots of experience in the plastics sorting, plastics recycling, chemical recycling, and this brings lots of competence in our work on packaging and packaging waste. Our second business is on digital solutions. This is where we have an innovative platform to manage the PPWR conformity declaration, as well as multiple aspects of PPWR, such as recyclability, EPR solutions. But today our focus would just be PPWR conformity. We are a small and quite agile team. So we are coming with different competences and putting it all together to ensure that we build a very cost-effective and easy solution. As you can see, our team is very international, and we are very focused on delivering the best solutions. We have gained quite some marketing in the last months. The reason for that is because we are trying to build a bridge between the operations, so let's say the real world sorting and recycling, and between data management and digitalization. So we'd be also present in various conferences, various exhibitions. So FACPAC was in 2025, and in Paris Packaging Week in the first week of February, and in Interpack in May. PPWR, is it a regulation or a bureaucratic storm? This was my first thought when I read the PPWR. That was in mid of 2024, when it was still a draft. The document is, I think, 130 pages long, and unfortunately very unclearly written. Yeah. So the most significant part of PPWR is that it is a regulation applicable all across the EU. Yeah. So in the last years, we had directives on packaging regulations, on the packaging waste and management. So every directive was then turned out into a national regulation. And therefore, in the current status quo, We have multiple national regulations in each country, and each country has a different way of dealing with packaging registration on EPR as well as with the packaging waste management. Yeah. But the PPWR comes with a very strong vision to harmonize EU as one entity. So the vision is very good, very strong, that each and every country should follow one single starting line. That's why we will have in future labeling requirements, which would be same for everyone in the market. We are going to have recyclability standards, recycled content integration analysis methodology, same for every country. So the vision is very good and very strong. The implementation, however, is going to be a huge challenge because today, as EU, we are 27 different heads, right? And now we all need to come together, and that is going to be a bureaucracy which we'll have to, let's say, which is a hurdle we'll have to come over. So the application of PPWR will start from 12th August 2026, more or less 6 to 7 months from now. It's a EU-wide harmonization. It means that if your packaging is conform, if your packaging is compliant to all the PPWR requirements, then it's compliant all across the EU. If it's not compliant in one area, then it's not compliant for any other country, yeah, for that specific area. It's a rising data and complexity question. So of course, since we have to go in a harmonized manner, we are going to get introduced with lots of new requirements through this regulation, and this is the real challenge. Now coming to our main topic, what is EU conformity declaration? Yeah. So if you look on the right side, CE mark, this is a very known mark because this is for the electronic devices, which is, let's say, a stamp of conformity. Yeah, it's a very standard practice, and the packaging conformity declaration has, of course, drawn inspiration from this CE conformity. Yeah. Now, what the conformity declaration, the vision for it is that every packaging that enters the market has to ensure that they are following the PPWR regulation. And how can the authorities understand if this packaging has actually followed the regulation or not? Through such a declaration of conformity. Yeah. This conformity declaration will cover all the compliance from Article 5 to Article 12. Each article is a, let's say, is a major packaging area in itself. Yeah. And the conformity declaration would come from a manufacturer of the packaging with the declaration that yes, my packaging is compliant, is conform, and therefore it can enter the EU market. Yeah. Again, to highlight, this declaration applies to all packaging in the market, no exceptions there. It's a formal legal declaration. It means that the company signing it is then liable for any, let's say, for any communication with the authorities for giving the data to the authority. This document is valid across the EU. It means the companies don't have to make individual document for each and every country where they place the packaging. One document is applicable all across the EU. How many languages would be required for it is a big question because this will depend on the auditors. If the auditors accept it in English, well and good. But if a German or a Spanish auditor says, no, I want it in my own language, then there's a requirement to translate the document in that language. Why is this document so important? So as we highlighted, it's a legal permission. So let's say it's a license to operate. Yeah. If I have this document, then without any stress, I can bring my packaging on the market and I can proudly place the market for the next couple of years until I don't change anything in this particular packaging. Yeah. The authorities can verify through this conformity declaration that my packaging is conform, is following the regulation, valid all across the EU. And without a declaration of conformity, I risk fines, I risk product recalls, and I risk a ban. Now, I treat the DOC very much similar to tax return documents, right? So if we do tax return today, the authority is not going to come and check it right now, but the authority might ask for it in the next 2 years, 3 years, right? It's a very similar case with DOC that the deadline is 12th August 2026 doesn't mean that the authority will come and check on 12th August, And it also doesn't mean that I have to report this DOC somewhere. It just means that I need to hold on to these documents for the next 5 to 10 years, depending on my type of packaging. And when the authority comes, I have to present these documents. Yeah. Now, the most important and the first step for understanding what needs to be done in conformity declaration is the identification of my role and obligation as per PPWR. Yeah. So the definitions in PPWR are very tricky because they don't match sometimes with the, let's say, with the normal language we use in the commercial terms, right? So a producer and a manufacturer of packaging, these are two very different roles in PPWR, right? So that's why we'll go a bit more in depth to understand what is your role and accordingly, what is the obligation you need to follow. As you see on the top, we have defined the most important roles for the economic operators as per PPWR. Yeah. We have manufacturers, importers, distributors, final distributor, retailer, fulfillment service provider, and the supplier. Now, we will not go inside each and every one of them. So that's why we are giving two examples of manufacturer and importer. Yeah. Manufacturer in PPWR is any company who is putting their brand logo on the packaging, is modifying the packaging in any way, and then automatically becomes responsible for that particular packaging. Yeah. So let's say if I'm a brand owner and I have my logo on the packaging, although I did not manufacture the packaging by myself, I still would be considered a manufacturer because I have my brand or logo on it. Yeah. So that's why if I'm a brand owner, very automatically I can say that for those packaging where I have my logo on it, I am the manufacturer for that particular packaging. Yeah. For certain other cases, if I modify the packaging, then I might become the manufacturer, and then it has to be analyzed in more depth. Yeah. Manufacturer has the most obligations in PPWR because as a manufacturer, I need to ensure that my suppliers give me the right technical documentations for Article 5 to Article 12. I need to create a conformity declaration and I need to sign it and store it with me for the next 5 or 10 years, right? So this becomes my huge obligation of coordinating with the suppliers, maintaining documents, creating documents. As an importer is any company who's importing packaging from third countries. So it means any country which is outside the EU. So if let's say I'm importing packaging from Turkey or from UK, then I become an importer of packaging in the EU, right? Now in this case, I am the importer, so I don't have to create the conformity declaration, but the company who's manufacturer, let's say based in Turkey or based in the UK, they need to make the conformity declaration. And I, as importer, need to verify that this packaging has the conformity declaration, has the technical documentations. Why do I need to verify? Because the authority in the EU will come to companies who are based in the EU. They will not go to companies who are based outside the EU, right? So automatically, I become highly responsible to ensure that there is a proper chain of verification happening. Yeah. I'm not going in detail in other areas, but another major role is of the suppliers because the suppliers need to supply the documents to all these other economic operators, and these documents will play a key role in giving confirmation that Article 5 to Article 12 are fulfilled. We have tried to make it simple, although it doesn't look so simple. So on the first column, you see all the economic operators listed. Then do you need to draw up the declaration of conformity? As you can see here, yes, no, we have tried to make it simple that who is having what kind of a role. If you need to retain the documents, in most cases, yes, you have to retain the documents, verify compliance, provide, let's say, communicate with the authority. Yeah. It is very important for each and every economic operator to understand first what is my role, because if I'm a manufacturer, I'm having the highest obligation, and is there a way to check that I'm not a manufacturer, right? So what exactly is my role? Number two, that What do I have to do? Do I need to verify? Do I need to create? How do I communicate with my suppliers to get the right documents? These are the different articles. So Article 5 to 12 and Article 24, 26 for the technical documentations. Yeah. So these are the articles where we need evidence and we need to provide technical documents. Yeah. This will mainly fall down to the suppliers to ensure that let's go very quickly through a couple of articles. Let's say that article number 5. Yeah. My supplier needs to ensure that there is no PFAS above the legal limit in the packaging. In Article 6, I will have to ensure that my packaging is at least 70% recyclable. Article 7, I need to have certain percentage of recycled plastic in my packaging if I'm bringing those type of packaging in the market. So these confirmations are coming from the supplier, yeah, and these technical documents need to be supported through evidence, right? That how can I prove it to the authority when I am asked to prove that these are my packaging and they do not contain harmful substances, they are following the regulation. Now, how does the technical documentation and supplier communication happen? Yeah. Please feel free to ask questions if I'm going too fast in the chat. Glad to come back later and explain the points again. So the supplier responsibility is quite complex because if your suppliers are based, let's say, outside the EU, they might not be aware with PPWR so much. If your suppliers are already aware with PPWR, that's a very positive thing, right? So the suppliers need to provide, in general, we're talking in general, material composition specifications, technical reports, evidences for the articles that we have to oblige with. And for 2026, these two articles are in focus. So Article 5 and Article 11. So for these two articles, whichever is applicable, the suppliers need to provide these data. Yeah. When I have these documents with me, then I go in the technical documents requirement according to the Annex 7, right? So this is where I formulate my technical document, that what is the packaging description, the intended use of this packaging, then either the specification, technical drawing, or the BOM, and then test reports or standards declaration. Yeah. After we have the technical documentation, we go to the last step, which is verification of data completion. Either we create the conformity declaration or we verify the conformity declaration as per my role, which was explained here, right? So if I'm a manufacturer, I would create the conformity declaration. Any other role, I verify the conformity declaration. In short, um, there's a lot to do before 12th August 2026. When I look at the timeline, it's 7 months. It actually sounds relaxed, but the challenge is not as per se by the economic operator of the manufacturer or the importer. The challenge would be more to get the right documents from your suppliers and to store the documents for the next couple of years in a very structured manner. Yeah. So the question is how to do it. Yeah. We propose that do it in a smart and digital manner because it's not a one-time requirement. This is going to be a requirement for the future. There will be more and more articles that will get in force in the next years. So in 2028, let's say there would be labeling requirements. In 2030, there would be recyclability and recycled content requirements. So as more and more articles come in force, it would be much easier to manage the data when it is well structured and digital. What do we offer on our platform? Number one, bulk data import. So when you are dealing whether with 500 articles or with 5,000 articles, if you have the data in your ERP systems such as SAP, right, or other systems, yeah, then we have the possibility to directly connect with the ERP system using API and get the data, only the required data on our platform, which is helpful to do the PPWR data management. If the data is present in Excel, even easier to just upload the data through the right Excel template and optimize the data on our platform. Otherwise, I can always enter the data manually if I do not have the data in these formats. Yeah. We give the possibility to enter three types of data. One is only packaging data. So let's say that I just want to analyze the recyclability of my packaging. Then we just need the packaging data. Yeah. At a later stage, I decide, no, I also want to do conformity declaration. Then then you have to upload the relevant PPWR data, which is then all related to packaging and the suppliers. The next step is packaging management. This is where you or your suppliers upload the specifications or the packaging material or the bill of materials. Any data which is relevant to the packaging should be entered at this stage. The better input data, the better output data. I would put it like that, right? After these data enter the platform, we have the possibility to go in role definition. So of course, we are present as experts to support in understanding what is your role. And after that, it's very easy to identify what exactly is your role, whether you're a manufacturer, importer, a distributor, etc. And to define what kind of packagings you have. So if you have a single-use packaging, reusable is the packaging in direct food contact application or in non-food contact applications. Yeah, these are the critical parameters we require for 2026. Yeah, as a company, we started with a very focus on optimizing cost and digitalization. It means that we currently concentrate on the requirements that are coming in 2026, 12th August 2026, and that's why we go very specifically just for two articles, which is Article 5 and Article 11. Once I have entered this data, then automatically our platform detects that what is my obligation. Is it Article 5? Is it Article 11? Is it both of them, right? And then based on that, I take the next steps. So in short, I start with data import. I upload more information on my data if that's possible. Even if it's not possible, I move on to the next step. I define what's my role. I update that my packaging is single use, reusable, food contact, non-food contact, and a platform detects the obligation. For the conformity creation process, I need big support from my suppliers, right? Now, there are two possibilities in the platform. One is that I enter as a manufacturer, importer, brand owner, and uh, I need to onboard my suppliers. Yeah, my suppliers in that case would be the companies who are producing my packaging. The other possibility is the other way around, that I am the packaging company who's making, let's say, pouches or paper bags, and then I'm supplying my paper bags to various brand owners. So in that case, I come on the platform and then I invite the brand owners, giving them the technical documentation. Yeah. So it works on both ways. So supplier onboarding, that happens digitally. So I can onboard my suppliers, I can send them invitation, and they directly get access to the platform. This is a very secure way because you invite your suppliers and then you only invite those people who you know are going to be responsible for giving you the data. And through our authentication method, we ensure that this person, this supplier, only has access to those packaging which you assign to those suppliers. Okay. So that's the second step, that when your suppliers enter the platform, it needs to be defined that for which packaging are they responsible, right? So if this data is already present in your SAP or Excel, then it gets automatically assigned. Otherwise, you always have the possibility, as shown here, to assign it through a drop method, drag and drop method. After I've done the supplier onboarding packaging assignment, you get access to our standard templates. Templates are for technical documentations as well as conformity declaration. Yeah. So there are two ways to enter the data. One way is that you directly put the data on the platform. It gets digitalized easily. Second way is you download the template, enter the data, upload it, and then we extract the data out of it. And all the data is always stored in digital manner. Point number 4. So I'm going a little faster. I'm already talking about the next step while being in the third step. So you upload the technical documentations, and depending on your role, either you create the DOC or you can also verify the DOC when your supplier has uploaded it on the platform. I would say that we check the real thing, that how does it actually work? Yeah. What's the next step, right? So what we propose is combine the expertise with digitalization, because 100% digitalization can't happen today unless you understand what's your role, what's your obligation, and more importantly, your suppliers understand what data needs to be provided. Yeah. So that's the expertise part. And the second part is digitalization of data. Now imagine that in 2028, we get data from, we have to update data from labeling requirements. In future, we have to do recyclability analysis. Once my data is on the platform and I keep doing such analysis, it keeps automatically updated. So it means in future, I won't have to put efforts as much as I have to put for the first time. So your next steps towards PPWR compliance: number one, identify your role and obligations and build a roadmap, right? What needs to be done in 2026 for what types of packaging? What needs to be done in 28, 2030, 2035? Yeah, this will be super helpful to build a proper timeline. Number two, analyze your packaging portfolio and guide your suppliers. Yeah, so this is something that we also offer, but if you are already engaged in PPWR, then understand how complex is your packaging portfolio. If you're dealing with thousands of packaging articles, then it's a good time to start engaging on PPWR conformity. Guide your suppliers. I would propose to put more, let's say, responsibility on your suppliers. Otherwise, you will have to do lots of coordination. So guide your suppliers what data you need and how to prepare the technical documentation. Yeah. And number three, digitalize your data. It's not a must. Everything can be handled in SharePoint, in Excel. We have been doing it for years, right? So I also did that until 2021, 2022. Lots of data on Excel, SharePoint. The only problem is the data needs to keep on getting updated, and I have to store the data for the next 5 years or 10 years. So digitalize the data and do conformity declaration by the 12th of August 2026. And with that, I I would like to gladly address the questions. I hope I was on time.
Yes, see, it was really good and also a really good timing for this time. So right now we will jump into the Q&A section. We have lots of questions, so we will try to cover all of them. Let me start with this one. So what is the minimum we must have in place by August 26th to avoid market access risk?
Technical documentations and conformity declarations for Article 5 and or Article 11. Yeah. So Article 5 addresses the substances of concern, and Article 11 is specifically for reusable packaging. So the minimum that you have to do is have technical documentations and conformity declaration for these two articles.
Perfect. Next question is, for Article 7, is supplier responsible? And I think there are two questions here. The percentage of recycling content has to be demonstrated per each packaging, or is an average or similar packaging for different clients?
Really good question. So the Article 7, the obligation is always with the manufacturer to ensure that Article 5 to Article 12 are fulfilled, right? The supplier is just providing the technical documentation. So let's say if I'm a manufacturer of the shampoo bottle, then I have to be clear in my strategy saying that I want to include 20% recycled content in my shampoo bottle, and this information I need to give to my supplier. The supplier has to provide us with technical documentation, for example, recycled content certification, saying that this shampoo bottle does contain 20% recycled content, and this documentation provided by the supplier will be part of the conformity declaration process, right? And then depending on the type of packaging, so let's say if it's a food contact packaging or it's a non-food contact packaging, the Article 7 is very complex because it differentiates between different types of packaging and your obligations.
Perfect. And related with that question, here's another question regarding suppliers. Do you provide any service to onboard my suppliers, like a workshop, webinar, in place, a meeting?
Right. So the platform, we have tried to make it as easy as possible, but since it's the first time for any packaging company to enter in conformity declaration, we provide a full onboarding process for the owner, so the company that purchases the service, as well as for the suppliers, so that we help companies understand that first, what is your role obligation? Second, how does the platform work? For the suppliers specifically, what kind of documents they need to provide, in which template, and how does the platform work, right? So it's a one-time effort that needs to be put in, and then you automatically learn. So I think it's a human nature that you go and you always explore things. So we just give you a really good guidance, and then you're always free to explore. By the way, I didn't show the chat function. So our chatbot, we're really proud of it because it's more accurate than ChatGPT. If you ask it any question related to PPWR, it'll answer. You ask any question outside of PPWR, it doesn't answer. So anything related to PPWR can always be addressed by our chatbot, and we are always there to support.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, coming to PFAS topic, what kind of evidence is required from a material supplier regarding PFAS? Is a statement enough, or is a laboratory assessment required? I have understood that the levels are so low that not many laboratories can verify the PFAS level.
It's a really good question. This is where PPWR becomes more and more unclear. So if you look what is written in the annexes, right, then you have to provide some technical evidence. So a self-declaration is not enough. So if your supplier gives a self-declaration saying that this packaging doesn't contain PFAS, it's not enough. It has to be supported by some technical documentation. And the technical documents could be in the form of raw material statements saying that there's no PFAS in the material through which that packaging is manufactured. Ideally, it should go in a lab testing, but from a commercial aspect, I don't think it's possible to lab test, let's say, 1,000 packaging in such a short period of time. So this is where we go deeper and then we help you figure out the best way possible. But just a statement is not enough from the supplier. Just a self-declaration is not enough.
Okay, another question regarding PFAS. How do you plan to bridge the gaps between the data already included in the DOC provided by suppliers and the technical documentation data needed to prepare the conformity assessment?
I think it's the same answer that I would give, that in the technical documentation, your supplier need to give you the supporting evidence, right? Um, let's say a logical solution needs to be found out here, because if you're bringing 4,000 packaging, 1,000 packaging in the market, you cannot test all the 1,000 packaging in a lab, right? It'll be significant costs coming on your way. So the question would be that how to engage with the supplier, make them understand that they have to ask for more technical documents to their suppliers, which are then raw material providers. You have to somehow prove that the packaging doesn't contain PFAS from the raw materials, from the additives, from the adhesives, from the master batch. Right? Once you have that confirmation, then I think it's very easy to prove.
Perfect.
And conformity, sorry, just one more point. Conformity declaration is the responsibility of the manufacturer, right? So the supplier will provide the documents. The manufacturer has to feel confident that these documents are correct and they are being addressed. And then you create the conformity declaration. And this is something not so easy to handle. And that's why we go on two areas in engagement with the customers. So one is that we act as a digital platform with onboarding service. Second is we go beyond the digital platform and then we engage with the suppliers. We guide them how to get the data while keeping your costs low.
Thank you. I mean, the question I keep coming and coming. So
Okay.
Another question regarding technical documentation. What kind of data should be there in the technical documentation?
So this we share in the technical template, and for that we are going to host a specific webinar, which is the part number 2, because this webinar was, let's say, very focused on the EU conformity declaration and on the owner perspective, right? So what do you do as a manufacturer? The next webinar will be very focused on the template required for technical documentation and what does the supplier have to do. In case of, let's say, if you have very specific questions, I would suggest to just come in contact with our team, and then we'd be able to guide you in that sense.
Perfect. Here's a question regarding labeling. I think that's for the future, but anyways, how about transport packaging like bands, straps, pallets? How can they be adequately labeled?
So I analyzed the document from JRC, which is 247 pages long. Um, the labeling requirements, let's say it's very tough for me to answer just on one specific packaging at the moment because the document is so intense. But the target is to harmonize the labels, right? And whether it's transport packaging, sales packaging, e-commerce packaging, PPWR doesn't differentiate between all these packaging. So this is a very crucial point that national regulations, let's say I would take an example of the German packaging regulation. Yeah. The German packaging regulation very clearly differentiates between different types of packaging. Yeah. The PPWR Article 3, point number 1 clearly talks just about packaging. So when the labeling requirements come, they're going to come specifically for all packaging, right? So in that sense, the target is to get harmonized labels across all the packaging, and labeling is going to be a big challenge. I don't think that the JRC report that came out is going to get implemented one-to-one because the German system, the French system, Netherlands, Spain, Italy, everyone is having their own system today, right? Everyone is having their own waste bins today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first thing is on the labels, there will no waste bins be mentioned that this should go in the yellow bag or this should go in the blue bag. And how will that get harmonized? Will have to be consulted with the municipalities, will have to be consulted with the PROs. So it's going to be a very intense process. So I think we have 2 years full of excitement with the labeling discussions that are going to happen. Yeah, so it's too premature for me to go in detail on that.
Okay, thank you. Now jumping to our platform. Another question is like, can suppliers be integrated digitally, or is this a manual work for me?
This is all digital. That if you have your supplier list in some Excel, which I'm assuming that you will have a supplier list in Excel, or you have your vendor data in SAP, then that data gets automatically transferred, right? The only thing that you have to do is send them an invitation. Why do you have to do that? Because you have to be sure that you are sending the invitation to the right person in the company. So the supply data gets automatically transferred on the platform, and then you have to ensure that you're inviting the right person from the supplier side on your platform, because that person will have access to your data, particularly for that supplier.
Okay. Another question regarding the platform. Can I have different users for my company, or is just one user per company?
So I can quickly go back. So for example, in my profile, I have added, so I'm the owner. As you can see, my role is the owner because I've purchased a subscription, and then I have added 2 test accounts. So in that way, I can add multiple members from my own company because we understand clearly that it's not just one person sometimes handling the whole data management, right? So it's a, let's say we're quite flexible in building customized solutions there.
Perfect. Now, let me see another question regarding conformity. Um, can we cover all the packaging formats types with one declaration, or do we need one per each packaging?
Life would be very simple if we would be able to cover everything with one declaration. Unfortunately, the EU doesn't make life very simple, so you need individual declaration for each packaging. What is although helpful is that I'll go back to my shampoo bottle example. Let's say that the conformity declaration for shampoo bottle I did in 2026, right? Now the same packaging is not getting changed in 2027, is not getting changed in 2028. So I don't need to do conformity declaration for the same packaging in the next 2 years again and again, right? That declaration is valid until the time there is some new article. Let's say the labeling requirement comes in, so then I need to add the document, or I make some change in my packaging. Yeah, only then I need to again update the conformity declaration.
Mhm.
But other than that, I have to do it for each and every packaging article.
Super. another question. When should be realistic to start to prepare for August 26th for the conformity declaration?
I'm not a good planner myself, so I do things at the last moment. But if everything is in your control, then you define the timeline. But the challenge with conformity declaration is that it's not just you who is responsible for it. Your suppliers, your customers are equally playing a role in it, right? And for me, the challenging part is not making the conformity declaration. The challenging part is getting the right technical documentations, right? So I would start now by connecting with my suppliers, by guiding them what needs to be done. So, okay, going one step back, I would start now first by understanding what is my role. If I'm a manufacturer, then I would really take action right now. If I'm importer, the same obligation. If I'm a distributor, then I might relax a little bit still in February and March and then take action at the end of March or April. But for these two specific roles, I would understand my role, my obligations, start interacting with my suppliers now, and then start to digitalize as soon as possible. Yeah, for distributor, final distributor, I can take action a little later.
Perfect. I think we are trying, I mean, we cover almost all the questions that we have, and also in honor of the time, we have only 4 minutes left. So we are coming to an end of the session. Thank you so much, Sid, for this great and informative webinar. It was really, really helpful. I think so. We have so many questions. And also, if we didn't answer all the questions, we can always have a video call. We love to have video calls, a coffee, a virtual coffee, and talk about the topics that are required. So before we come to the end of the session, we have two other questions that will help us to improve our services. I will launch it here. So the first question for us is like, how open are you to using a digital tool like this one that we show that help to facilitate and streamline this process? Just 5 more seconds. Okay. Thank you very much for that. And then the last question is, in what format would you prefer to receive information like this one? Do you like a fact sheet, a webinar, another webinar on this topic, or in one-on-one meeting? A few more seconds, just so everyone can vote. Okay. Perfect. We can see that you like the webinar format. I like it too. And we invite you to stay connected and keep an eye in our communication, especially on LinkedIn, because we will be sharing more details about what is coming next. Thank you again for joining us today, for your engagement and excellent questions. We truly appreciate your time and interest. Have a great day, and thank you for being part of Packintelx.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye-bye.